vote for it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So, next, well, that takes that one out. The next one, councillors, in the order that I took them, was we're going to the report of the Aboriginal Advisory Committee on AA 2011, which is the additional item for the Kulanguddy Plan of Management. And that's on starting on page 16. Councillor Guile.
I think Madam Mayor, we need to be very careful with these motions, the way they stand in the business paper. I believe that elements of these motions are libellous, if not defamatory, in direct terms, and therefore I move the Council receive the report with regard to these items from the Aboriginal Advisory Committee for information.
So you're moving the entire report?
No.
No, you're moving them singularly, are you?
I'm moving 12, 13 and 14 for information.
12, 13 and 14 for information. Okay, well hang on, that leaves 11 outstanding because 11 was also pulled out on the list.
That's fine.
So you're only dealing now with 12, 13 and 14 for information, and that's been seconded by Councillor Gash. Right, debate. Councillors, you want to speak to it any further, Councillor Guile?
Just to note that I'd find it hard that any councillor could sit in an advisory committee meeting like this and allow such motions to be brought forward in a report to council. So if any councillors were there, they should take a good look at themselves and the sort of irresponsibility they showed by allowing this to happen.
Okay, Councillor Di Giulio.
Thank you. I wasn't at this particular meeting, but I knew this meeting was going to happen because this community has some unfinished business with our councillors and our community, with the way things have panned out for them, the way land has been distributed over the many years since white man landed in this country. These motions came from really intelligent, sensible, well-informed people on the committee, and I'm glad they finally found their voice. And I fully support the sentiments behind this committee and what they're up to, and there'll be a lot more reports like this coming forward because they deserve their voice, that we need change and we need to honour and truly respect our Aboriginal community, and we also need to encompass a statement of the heart finally, so they can finally be part of this community in a way that's meaningful. So I fully support the sentiments behind the whole committee, and Councillor Guile, you should come to those meetings because they're very empowering. Just saying.
Councillor Levitt.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. But I do know the CEO's comments there about the wording of 2012. I agree entirely. It's badly worded, and I suggest that before we further debate it, we acknowledge that the wording needs to be corrected there. Look, in relation to the CEO's comments in Part 2 of 20.12, I don't see any reason why this council, who this all centres around the action of the cutting down of 2 further trees down at the site, the church site there at Huskisson, which everybody understands is an extremely contentious issue. 2 people were arrested. Those sorts of incidents always cause angst and division. I don't think resolutions to have come out of this council while I've been observing the process down there have been adequate. You know, we have it in our charter that we value our Aboriginal population and that we value their culture, and yet in this chamber, on a number of occasions, we failed to show that. We failed to show it, as Councillor Di Giulio commented in the Statement of the Heart. It was sidelined for further consultation when there'd been sufficient consultation at the time, and we've been reminded here tonight we should make decisions now, but that's when it suits some. When it doesn't suit some, we defer them for more consultation. And then there, of course, was the motion to reject the Jerringa people's request for a 6-month moratorium so that the site of the graves down there could be fully analysed, sounded out to determine where they actually were, out of deference to a request from a significant body of people, Indigenous people in our community. To reject that, I think, was a major slap in the face for the people. So these motions came out of an incident down there where a member of the Jurrinja people was abused, allegedly, and I take Councillor Guile's point about the legal terminology in here. It's a little on the loose side, I admit, but there was an allegation that one of the workers in the tree company that did the work down there was abusive and disrespectful to...
What's the point of order, Councillor?
Look, I can't find it quickly, but I do fear that in what Councillor Levitt is doing, he's restating what's potentially defamatory about this report, and I'd ask him not to do so.
Thank you.
No, I'm not restating what's...
I'm not ruling on the point of order.
I don't accept that there's anything defamatory necessarily. That's your opinion. I don't know what your legal background is. It's probably similar to mine, very little. It's not for me or you to judge what's defamatory in here.
Yes, Councillor.
Address his remarks to the Chair.
Yes, Councillor. Councillor
Yes,
Levitt's
I
heard
beg
your
your pardon.
point of order. I'm not ruling on that either. Councillor,
Okay,
continue
through
to
you,
address through me,
Through
please.
you, Madam Mayor. I beg your pardon. Look, I just ask that councillors accept the thrust of these motions, to accept them for what they are. It's a plea for Aboriginal people in this area to be heard around very, very sensitive issues. One is the Kulanguddy Mountain. Now, irrespective of whether the compliance of the Bigfoot tourist attraction there is or is not adequate, is not really the point. The point about the dispute and the angst around that issue is that that mountain is sacred to the Aboriginal people. We need to respect that. We also need to respect the fact that there's grave sites on the site at Huskisson that we need to be sensitive about. And we also need, and I think we've got every right, and I disagree with the comments of the CEO that it's an operational manner to determine that the companies that work and make a substantial amount of money out of this council through contracts aren't required to have some sort of cultural sensitivity in their charters to make sure incidents like is alleged to have happened at the chopping down of the trees at Huskisson a couple of weeks ago occurred. So, the motions that are put up are not perfect in their wording, but they are substantially honest and the intent is there, and I think we should support them.
Thank you, Councillor Levitt. Councillor Proudfoot?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I, like Councillor De Giulio, certainly understand the sentiments in these motions, but I am concerned, very concerned, of the clumsy manner in which they're worded. And I believe that they should have been worded in a more appropriate manner. I do. I don't know what the legal ramifications are, and in fact in the third part of the motion there, the last motion, legal advice is sought. But what they do express is a frustration. They express a frustration as to, in their view, in the view of the Aboriginal people, their lack of genuine consultation. And that's what I set out to do when we spoke about the statement from the heart, which we've just received criticism from, and yet we still haven't received the report back from staff on that one. And the staff member charged with the responsibility of producing that report, and I've just about worn out the phone contacting her, didn't come forward with the report. She now left the organisation, a very good operator I might add, but on this occasion I don't know what happened. And that should have come back to this chamber. And it was a reasonable thing. Just like it would have been reasonable on the Huskisson site to do more meaningful consultation with the Aboriginal people about their feelings about the graves and the trees and the site there in general. Now, that's not to say that the outcome would have been satisfactory for them, but certainly I think we could have done a much better job. I do understand their frustration. I do understand how they put the report together, but I don't believe it's done in a way that will satisfy enough councillors here tonight to support. And I think that's a real shame. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Aldrich.
Thanks. Yeah, I've this week met with some of the members of the Aboriginal Advisory Committee, and I've spoken to them about what their intentions were when writing this, and their intentions are for due process to be followed, especially regarding the Huskisson site. They want to know. They want to know that more than just a dollar dig has been done. They want to know that there are. They want proof that people are saying, "Oh, there's no Aboriginal graves there," and I've just heard it. People want to know. They want to know that there are no Aboriginal graves there. They want proof that there are no Aboriginal graves there. This is and one of them actually said to me, "Look, if it goes ahead, it goes ahead as long as due process has been followed." And to this point, they don't believe that it has.
Councillor Gash.
I just want to make a comment that we're faced with he said and she said in this, and it's very unfortunate the wording that took place. I've also had a meeting with some of the people, and I respect them enormously. And I understand they want to see due diligence because they have a responsibility to their own people as well. However, the wording that was presented to us here has not met well with some of the people concerned from the advisory committee. And all they wanted to know was, as Councillor Aldrich has said, was due diligence process taken. I go along with what the CEO has said, and I've always supported the developer in this, as everybody knows, and so that the people who met with me knew that as well. But they just wanted to point across that they are also responsible to their own people in which way they act on this, and I fully appreciate that. I think they're certainly not against the development, but they are asking for due diligence, and I think there's nothing that we can do in this now. They certainly don't want to stop the development, and I respect what they had to say, and I think there were some fences that were mended on the particular day, because I also made a few calls to the developer on behalf of the people, and they were quite happy with the response that was done. So I think we should just, as Councillor Guile has said, note it. I don't think we should look into it any further because it's going to create, as I said, he said and she said, and councillors are going to say this and somebody are going to say the others. I think it's been resolved. Let's get on and move on.
Councillor Levitt.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'm just, I understand the thrust of what the debate
Have
is
you got
around.
a question or a motion?
Well,
Sorry.
I would like to make some suggestions to try and keep this alive, and one of the things would.
So you're making an amendment
I'm
then?
making an amendment.
Yes.
Sorry, that's what I'm doing.
Thank you.
That we make the changes to 20.12 to accommodate the comments of the CEO, that we delete in 20.13 item 1 completely, and the wording of item 2 read that council specifically affirms that the due diligence in relation to the cultural sensitivity of the development site report was prepared by an Aboriginal person.
Okay. Councillor Levitt, I cannot ask Councillor Guile to accept those amendments because the motion, that it's contrary to the motion that Councillor Guile has put. So Councillor Guile has put that the motion's been moved plainly for information. The only further action that I can take at this point on the rest of these motions is a foreshadowed motion.
Well, could I foreshadow a motion to the effect of those changes I've just outlined?
Absolutely.
I'd like to do that.
But you cannot speak to it any further because we need to stick back to the substantive motion.
Okay, well, can I ask Councillor Guile, would he consider such a motion? Is that appropriate or not?
No, because it doesn't. It still runs counter to the motion that he's put.
I'll second that.
So Councillor De Giulio is seconding the foreshadowed motion that's been moved by Councillor Levitt. Councillor Pakes, you're speaking to the substantive motion.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor, and I'll be quick. I will be supporting Councillor Guile's motion. I think we need to be very careful when adopting statements that imply that someone has done the wrong thing, because not only does this implement this, it implements our staff. And our staff have done an incredible amount of work in regards to this site. And I won't say which staff member told me, but I had a conversation with a staff member who said, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. This is a very complex issue within our community, and I believe, I could put my hand on my chest, and I don't always agree with staff, and we have arguments every now and then, but I can put my hand on my heart and say that the development staff in this respect have done due diligence. I honestly believe that. So I don't want in any way people to think that wrongdoing has been done. In saying that, there is still a lot of concern. So my suggestion would be that maybe the Aboriginal Advisory Committee could ask for some of our development staff to attend the next meeting, to have a bit of a workshop, a bit of a Q&A, so they can ask staff, was this done? Was this done? How was this done? Can you explain the process around something else?
So you're moving an amendment?
No. I'm happy to leave it. That's up to the Aboriginal Advisory Committee if they want to go down that path. But I just wanted to say that I support the development. I've voted for the development from the start, the same as Councillor Gash.
Yeah, the motions are not about the development. The motion is about
I know that.
moving
I'm just
for
putting it out there.
Thank
but
you.
I am saying that my decisions have been made simply off the information that we have been provided by experts in the field, and a big part of it was our staff. So I don't want our staff to be implemented in any way if there was something that was incorrectly done or not done right. So I will accept Councillor Guile's motion, and I'll leave it there.
Thanks. Councillor Aldridge?
Yeah, I have a question through the Mayor to the CEO.
Sure.
If we just move this for information, is that it? Then it gets parked and no action will be taken?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any further debate, councillors, or any further amendments? No right of reply, Councillor Guile.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And look, I don't want to get into the detail behind the issue. My very simple point is that a report that comes here to Council that's published in our business paper should not do what this report has done, and make accusations of racial vilification, humiliation, goading, and that of misleading. It's completely inappropriate. And that is the basis for what is a very polite but definite local government response to say we receive it for information. Thank you. We're going to move on quickly. Now, as for Councillor De Giulio's point that these people have found their voice, I'd respectfully suggest that they look for another one that doesn't do this.
So with that, councillors, I'm going to put the motion. Can I see a show of hands for support of the motion that it's moved for information? That's Councillor Gash, Councillor Wells, Councillor White, Pakes, Watson, Guile and Kitchener. Councillors Finlay, Levitt, De Giulio, Aldrich and Proudfoot vote against. The motion is carried. No, we can't go yet. We've got to go back to 2011, which is the additional item, Kulanguddy Plan of Management. No, we didn't deal with 2011, and 2011 was pulled out.
Yeah, but the original motion that reordered the paper
No.
had the confidential session next.
No, it didn't.
It did. You checked the motion, Madam Mayor.
Can we just deal with this and get this out of the way?
I'm asking
No, I'm actually now just moving that we're trying to deal with the paper. I have it ordered in the business before me that this is the next motion that we deal with. In fact, it was to be the first order of the motion, which was 2, 3, 4 and 5, were those items within the Aboriginal Advisory Committee. Do I have a mover for 2011, please?
Point of order. The procedural motion quite clearly
Well,
brought forward the confidential to happen after this item.
Thank you. I'm not ruling on your point of order. I'm taking this,
I'm sorry.
and then I'm finishing this piece of business and we're going to an adjournment.
Well, you can't do that without the permission of council. So I'd ask you put another procedural motion to
You
change
put
what
it.
our agreed...
You put it.
I'm sticking with the original motion, thanks very much.
You put it now, a procedural motion to go to confidential and deal with those items.
I move we resolve into confidential.
Right, now hang on, you need to put a procedural motion to bring...
It was on the business paper. If we scroll to the top of the business paper, the motion that he moved included the confidential paper.
Well, how did 2011 then get in the...
Because you moved it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't recall that.
We're all a bit stressed.
I'm not stressed at all. I just would like to do the business of this council in a nice order that our governance staff can move forward with. And if we've got all of these, I'm very calm, councillor, and I now have a mover of a motion that says we're going to go into confidential. And that's been seconded by Councillor Pakes. Is there dissent from that? Let's do the work. We are now in confidential. We are now going into confidential because there's no dissent.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Whilst in confidential session, the Council considered 3 reports. CESA 20.4, proposed purchase of land Warragee, and the Council resolved to retain confidentiality of the recommendation in accordance with Section 10A2C of the Local Government Act until the transaction has settled. In relation to CSA 20.5, land acquisition matters, Bangalee and Camberwarra localities, Council resolved that the Chief Executive Officer, through the Director of Assets and Works, undertake the proposed land acquisition actions as detailed in the report. In relation to CSA 20.6 fee waiver interment fees, the Council resolved that pursuant to the financial hardship provisions under Section 610E of the Local Government Act, and in recognition of the significant impact of the bushfires on the service provision in relation to the individual circumstances outlined in the formal submission received, Council waive fees in this instance as outlined in the report, being the cost of an interment right for an adult interment site at Sandridge Cemetery and the cost of the first interment fee for preparation and interment, and that the waiver be absorbed into the 2019-20 bereavement services budget.
Thank you. So, councillors, now we're going to go back to the Aboriginal Advisory Committee to 20.11, which is the additional item, which is the Plan of Management for Kulanguddy. Thank you, Councillor Proudfoot. Seconded by Councillor Levitt. Any discussion on this item? There being none, I'm going to put the motion. Is there any dissent from the motion? Then the motion is carried. The motion is carried. Please note Councillor Guile voted against the motion. So now, councillors, we're going back to the beginning of paper, and we're going to the notice of motion on sporting facilities, which is 20.43.